Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on all the places, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and elsewhere at Hawk Blogger. And here we are, a couple days removed from a closer than should have been, but still victorious game down in the desert. Seahawks moved to 3-1, and it's been an interesting few, I don't know, 24 hours following that game, and some of the things we've heard from national media and others who are starting to feel a little bit differently about this Seahawks offseason, and in particular, their starting quarterback, Sam Darnold, than they did not so long ago. So I want to have a little fun with all of you today, and hopefully you guys have some fun with this too. I put out a request on Twitter. I think it was yesterday. Days are all blending together, and I was like, let's give me some of the takes from the offseason that stood out to you about the Seahawks, and we'll see if we'll feature some of these. Now, not everybody, I didn't quite articulate the assignment well enough. I got some people that wanted me to read off Twitter, individual tweets, which I might do a couple of, but mainly I'm looking for sound bites that we can play and listen to together, and then kind of compare it to how things have gone. And one of the funny things to me about the reaction to me putting out that tweet, the amount of Seahawks fans that responded like, man, this isn't the way to do it. It's only 4 games. You're going to jinx us. This is going to look silly in a few weeks or at the end of the season. Or folks, let's talk about that for a second. We're going to listen to takes that were very confidently given and very derogatively given with 0 weeks of the season having been played. Okay? So don't tell me that we can't listen to takes that were made with 0 games played, and in a lot of cases, 0 eyes on the players in Seattle for a single practice, and look back at those a little derisively and be like, okay, you guys were a little bit over your skis. So we're going to have some fun with that. Also, if things turn out poorly, then let's have fun today. Like, I'm not going to sit here and meekly wait until the Seahawks have won every game they possibly can win and nobody can possibly argue. Screw that. Like, the Seahawks have won 3 straight. They should be 4-0. Sam Darnold has been one of, if not the best quarterbacks from a statistical and a lot of other standpoints through 4 weeks. If that's not a time to have some fun together and look at that, I don't know when is. So am I sitting here declaring that the Seahawks are Super Bowl champs to be? No. Am I going to sit here and say the Seahawks are destined to win 14 games and blow everybody out? No. But the Seahawks are 3-1. Sam Darnold has been very good. And I think there's a little retribution due. So let's have some fun with it. The other thing I'll say before I get into it is I've got my own takes, and I'm not above being wrong on things. I gave the Seahawks offseason grade after, not the offseason grade. I gave their free agency immediately after. I gave it a C. Like, I was, and I could play that sound for you, and I'm happy to if you guys want. I got a lot of sound to play and not a lot of time to play it. So we'll see if we get to it. But my take was, I don't think I can clearly make the case the Seahawks got better. I don't think I can make the case for sure that they got worse. And my general response, like, you can go back to the moment the Seahawks signed Sam Darnold in free agency, and I went through and I compared Geno Smith to Sam Darnold, and I told you why I thought it was a good contract and a good get and the best opportunity. So all my receipts are out there, and people that want to hold me to task, please do it. That's why you do the show. And a lot of people say I was right, or I was, very few people say I was wrong, but I put it out there every single day. So I've definitely had some terrible takes, and we're going to touch on some people that are kind of friends of the show. And so I'm not some of these folks, it's not like I'm dancing on their grave or something. I want to take a moment and revisit some of this. With all that, let's get into it. I've got a bunch of sound to play. I haven't thought about the order. I've been trying to get the right timestamps and all this stuff. So forgive me if we're going to jump around a bit, but let's start with the Ringer podcast. And this was NFC West offseason grades. And this was later in this show with Sheil Kapadia, Steven Ruiz, and Deontay Lee, where they were answering the question, are the Seahawks better or worse? Okay. Are the Seahawks better or worse? Let's listen to Sheil Kapadia on that question.
Right. Better or worse than last year? I can start. Should be pretty obvious. I think they're worse. They went 10-7 last year, just missed out on the playoffs. They were 18th in offensive DVOA, 10th in defensive DVOA. They were 6-2 in one-score games. And again, this really just comes down to, I think the offense is going to be worse. I actually think the offense specifically has quite a low floor, where if you get bad Darnold combined with bad offensive line, if Jackson Smith and Jigba misses 6 weeks or something, this being one of the worst 5 or 6 offenses in the NFL, in my opinion, is in play.
Okay, let's pause. We're going to listen to more. One of the 5 or 6 worst offenses in the NFL. Okay, let's take a quick look. Let's take a quick look at where the Seahawks rank through 4 weeks. How are the Seahawks doing offensively? By the way, I love Sheil Kapadia, so take that for, we all have our L's, but I'm just going to offer that. Seahawks rank 5th in points scored. They rank in terms of yards per play. I believe, let's take a quick look because I haven't seen this recently. Yards per play. Seahawks rank 7th in the NFL. And in fact, Bob Condotta had a good little tidbit in his article this morning in the Seattle Times that the Seahawks yards per play differential right now is the best it's been since 2014. And right now, it's roughly equivalent to the 2013 Seahawks. Okay. Doesn't sound like a bottom 5 to 6 offense, but let's keep listening. What else does she have to say?
This season. So I am bullish on the defense. I think that probably sets the floor a little bit higher in terms of the team's record. But I think overall, this is a worse team. I would be surprised if this team made the playoffs this year. Deontay, what do you got?
If this roster held exactly, I might make the argument that they're worse because their performance down the second half of the season last year was banked on a lot of high variance stuff like their third down defense, which Steven mentioned, forcing a bunch of turnovers. They swept the Cardinals last year because of turnovers and third down defense, not because their offense was great. And they didn't play their best against their top competition, right? This was very much can beat bad teams.
Yes.
Will kind of struggle on offense against good teams. We definitely saw that as they were trying to make a push for the postseason. And now all the pieces that I thought gave them a higher ceiling are out of the building outside of Mike McDonald. That's the one guy who I think could be a ceiling raiser for this team. And he doesn't get to put on the pads at all. I don't know how this team is not the worst in the NFC West. Just look, even if you're banking on the absolute best outcome for Sam Darnold, I don't think that there's enough around him for them to be a double-digit win team again.
Oh. You're telling me we can't have this conversation after 4 weeks? That take, Deontay's a very smart guy, by the way, but that's an L, man. That even if you get the best Sam Darnold, they're not going to win 10 games. They're not going to make the playoffs. You're telling me if we get this version of Sam Darnold the rest of the season, starting out 3-1, that with this schedule, they're not going to win 10 games? I mean, please. Come on. Let's get to Steven Ruiz.
Ruiz?
Yeah, I think they're definitely worse. They went 6-2 in close games last year, which kind of, inflated that 10-7 record. And I totally agree with you with the offense. I feel like this is a very low floor offense. And what I'm envisioning is kind of like a Jets team. Pick any Jets team from the last decade. Strong defense, questionable offense that kind of sets back the defense and makes things harder. And I think that's the type of season they're going to have, 7-8 wins. We're going to talk about Mike McDonald being a genius, but we're going to, commiserate about the offensive line and the quarterback situation. By the way, I just found this out today. Seattle's defensive coordinator has a British accent
or something else.
This isn't worth listening to. We'll stop it there. I mean, I got to rewind to an earlier part of this where Steven Ruiz gives his grade for their offseason. All right. So, and by the way, we'll talk a little bit about how some takes have changed. I'll play some of those a little bit later. Some people haven't yet been willing to admit maybe they made a mistake. So here's Steven Ruiz in the same episode giving his offseason grade for the Seahawks. Keep in mind this includes the draft. Okay.
D+. I think this is like this. Just looking at the offense, because I agree, like the defensive moves, they all make sense to me on paper. DeMarcus Lawrence, I think he's going to have a good year. Re-signing Ernest Jones made sense with what he was after he came over. I think the defense is going to be better than it was last year. I still think it has room to grow. It's the best third down defense in the NFL, but on the early downs, it wasn't very good. And I think with these moves, especially like on the defensive line, you have Ernest Jones for a full year, that you're going to see a better first and second down defense, which is going to make their third down defense even scarier.
Even better, right?
But offensively, like they're the only team in the NFL that lost a top 10 quarterback, in my opinion. And that's what I think Geno Smith is. And like Deontay said, you're replacing them with like the antithesis of what they needed, given their offensive line situation and what their problems were on offense last year. Now, the saving grace could be the offensive coordinator change, going from Ryan Grubb to Clint Kubiak. By the way, this is a 2 Kubiak offensive coordinator division. I didn't realize that. The 49ers have a Kubiak.
It doesn't matter. All right. We don't need to listen to all that. So, I mean, we're not going to turn this into a Geno versus Sam conversation, which is probably a separate thing in and of itself. But let's be really clear. Through 4 weeks for Sam, 3 weeks for everybody else, it's no contest. Like, no contest which quarterback is playing better. And you got to wonder a little bit. About whether some of the issues that they were talking about for Geno were Geno's and not the surrounding situation that he was in. As of right now, Sam Darnold ranks 3rd in the NFL among quarterbacks in EPA plus CPOE, which stands for completion percentage over expected. So you're completing passes that most quarterbacks wouldn't expect to complete. He's 3rd in the NFL behind Jared Goff and Lamar Jackson. Okay. Geno Smith ranks 17th in that same number. If you go by just EPA per play, which Sam will struggle in a little bit more because he's had a couple turnovers, he's 5th in the NFL. Geno Smith is 18th. If you go by success rate, which is getting staying on schedule is the easiest way to think about it. Getting the requisite yardage on first down, second down, third down to move the chains. Sam Darnold ranks 2nd in the NFL in success rate. Geno Smith ranks 28th in the NFL in success rate. And this is all coming from a guy I've told you multiple times. I thought ahead of this season that Geno Smith was a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. I've said that. So I'm not immune either. But to this point, that looks like a very incorrect take. At the very least, these guys look like equivalent players. And if you're being like honest, like you're getting people talking about the Raiders offensive line. Like, man, how is Geno supposed to survive behind? That was considered a decent offensive line just a year ago. And so I don't know. I don't know that there's a good case to be made that Geno is better than Sam right now. And also, there's a great take, which I'm not going to play today. Greg Cosell, I think, was one of the best takes on this, that as far as the offense the Seahawks are running, Geno Smith was not an ideal fit. And Sam Darnold is. Under center, play action is what Sam Darnold does really, really well. Geno Smith likes to be in the shotgun and likes to spread it out. So even though I was a big Geno Smith fan and continue to be, I all along was able to recognize that there were some differences there. All right, let's listen to some more. Let's listen to, who's this? This is let's let's take a listen to, I think this is going to be a Mike Renner take. There's a lot of Mike Renner and Kyle Long. I can't remember exactly where I was on this one, but let's take a listen. This is offseason grades for those guys.
I think they flopped it. I think they fell flat in their face, and they're
okay.
So
this is Mike Renner.
8 to 9 wins,
let me get it back
wins,
where you guys can hear it.
It should be still a very good team. I just thought they had a chance to become Super Bowl contenders this offseason, and I think they flopped it. I think they fell flat in their face, and they're going to wind up around 8 to 9 wins, 10 wins, and still be looking on the outside, looking at the playoff picture.
Yeah, I have them down as a D+. So I'm glad that you said the C+ might have been a little too, you might be coddling the Seattle Seahawks. First and foremost, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, I wouldn't even call that a lateral move.
Downgrade.
I think Geno Smith gives you more than Sam Darnold, particularly in a vacuum.
Agree.
Okay. So Sam Darnold, obviously fantastic with that offense in Minnesota. He had flashes of excellence, brilliance, whatever the opulence, whatever the word you want to use is. We don't know what's going to happen with Sam Darnold in Seattle. You're outdoors. The weather is shit from October on. It's gray. Okay. Your number one receiver's out the door. Tyler Lockett's out the door. There's a lot of question marks. You talked about Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp 32, but 32 in Rams years, okay? And for people who understand what the Los Angeles Rams do with the receiver position, they ask those guys to be fullbacks. So,
all right, enough from Kyle Long. So Sam Darnold's going to be bad because he's outside and because it's cold. By the way, Kyle Long goes on later in this episode to say, you don't retire and move to Seattle. You retire and you move to Arizona or Florida. Cooper Kupp's joints are going to be aching there. And DeMarcus Lawrence, like they're going to struggle with the weather. What a weird take. And not to mention like Cooper Kupp's from the area, but did anyone watch Sam Darnold play in November in Seattle against the Seahawks and throw the game-winning touchdown under pressure? Like, yes, it is the same Kyle Long that played, that for people that are asking. Yes, it is. He sure looked pretty good in that game against the Seahawks in that weather outdoors. So I don't know where this cold weather Sam can't play outdoors thing is really coming from, but that's an interesting take. And I see that people are asking if I've got the Chris Sims thing teed up. I had some Chris Sims stuff. None of it was like as biting as I wanted it to be. So if you have a link to a Chris Sims clip that you want me to play, send it, and I'll probably be able to play it during this episode. Okay. Speaking of Mike Renner, I mean, I've got a fair, I'll be honest, I got a fair amount of Mike Renner on here because I think he has some of the biggest L's to hold for his takes. This was a short clip of him talking about the weapons that the Seahawks have or don't.
What he did last year in New Orleans is not the kind of talent that they have here now in Seattle. It was a run-heavy offense. It was a vertical-based offense, and they used a lot of 2-3 tight end sets. They don't have 2 or 3 good tight ends here in Seattle. They don't have speedy wide receivers on the outside. It's just going to have to look a lot different.
Okay. They don't have 2 or 3 good tight ends in Seattle. Well, let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at that. And why don't we take a look at how are we doing on receiving touchdowns? Okay, let's just look at receiving touchdowns. AJ Barner, look at that. He shows up there. He's got two touchdowns through 4 weeks. He's got as many receiving touchdowns as Mark Andrews. He's got as many receiving touchdowns as DK Metcalf. He's got as many as Zach Ertz, Tucker Kraft, Cortland Sutton, George Pickens, Devontae Adams, Nico Collins. Seems like they got something there. Oh, and by the way, if we look at rookies, let's take a look at rookies for a second. I haven't done this, so I'm actually curious. How are, from a rookie receiving perspective, how are we doing in terms of who's doing well? We certainly know that Tyler Warren's very good and Harold Fannon's really good. Who's got the third most receiving yards as a rookie tight end? The Elijah Arroyo. Third most receiving yards as a rookie tight end. And I think he's just getting started. I think he's got more to offer than what they've taken advantage of so far. And by the way, as I told all of you as part of First Look and Tail the Tape last week, with Robbie Oots out, it wasn't going to be just rolling Brady Russell in and playing the same amount of fullback snaps. It was going to be a dramatic increase in 12 personnel and 13 personnel. And that's what it was. They played a lot of 2 and sometimes 3 tight end sets throughout that game. That's what you're going to get for the next 3 weeks as well. That's going to get Elijah Arroyo and AJ Barner and this total lack of good tight ends out there on the field. Is there anybody that looks at the Seahawks tight ends and seems like they're not up and coming? Like, do you look at that, man, like, oh, I wish this was still Noah Fant in there. Like, I don't feel that way. Let me see if I can find a little, I think this is another Mike Renner take. Let's play this. I can't remember exactly what I have queued up, but let's listen. This is them talking about schedule predictions for every team in the NFC West and talking specifically about the Seahawks.
They lose DK Metcalf. They lose Geno Smith, right? They lose Tyler Lockett.
By the way, this is Leisure Dozable. I can't remember. He's a former NFL player.
These are great locker room guys, but also productive guys as well. Let's not forget, the Seahawks went 10-7. And they essentially revamped this offense after 1 year, which I don't know why, right? And then when you look at it, this team's going to be led by its defense. They're probably going to have a top 5 defense. When you look at the depth chart, there's not really a weakness on their defense, but there's major concerns when you look at this offense, not only with the interior of the offensive line. Yes, they got Gray Zabel, but he's going to be a rookie. He's going to be tasked to either start at guard or center from day one and be the guy. But they've also had issues with their offensive tackle staying healthy. Now you have new pass catchers. You have a new quarterback. You have a new coordinator. So it's going to take a lot of mesh and gelling. I think they're going to struggle this year. I got them going 5-12.
Yeah, I was scratching my head for the minute they let Geno Smith go up.
Whoa. Sorry, I got to pause there. I've got them going 5-12. 5-12. I mean, these are real takes. And I'm going to repeat it again, folks. Like, you can say, whoa, well, let's not get out of our skis. Let's not, take a victory lap. This isn't a victory lap, but it is a check-in. And the Seahawks have already got 3 wins. They're 3-1. I mean, I guess 5-12 is still technically possible. Kyle Long and Mike Renner are going to be the other 2 guys on this. They both predict the Seahawks were going to finish 7-10. Let's hear what we got here.
Yeah.
I mean, we love watching Geno Smith. Great quarterback.
Man.
There's only a handful of guys that can really sling it like Geno Smith can. Tremendous in the 2-minute part of the game. And when you're on a football team like this or in the NFL in general, you got to win those 1-score games. Geno Smith does a good job in the 2-minute drill. I had questions about that the entire time. Sam Darnold, I wouldn't even call that a lateral move. Okay, I would call that a downgrade for the Seattle Seahawks.
For sure.
From Minnesota to Seattle.
Well, losing Geno
for the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay.
It's not even a lateral move. Like you're kind of settling there for what you got. DK Metcalf out the building as well. A lot of questions there. Yeah, for the Seattle Seahawks, I got them finishing up at 7-10. I'm just not crazy. I mean, like you can't pin down the Cardinals. I can't figure out what the hell was going on, except for the Gray Zabel pick I love.
Oh, that was an amazing pick.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are buying the Seahawks. They had one of my least favorite off seasons, and it's just this offense.
Yeah.
I don't think is built to score points right now. And I think Clint Kubiak's a good offensive coordinator. I think that might be an upgrade. But the talent-wise, losing DK Metcalf is huge. He opened up so much for Jackson Smith-Njigba. That speed threat, just that ability to take the top off of defense.
Which is what Kubiak wants to do to people.
Yeah.
And now they don't have it. They just signed
Exactly.
Cooper Kupp, who might go
Get out there,
They have no speed out there.
legitimately 2, 4, 6 wide receivers are your 1 and 2 punch. I don't see it working out. That's almost never worked out in the modern NFL.
They went.
Okay. All right, Mike. All right, Mike. So Mike goes on to say this in a bunch of other places. They got 2, 4, 6 wide receivers. DK Metcalf was the reason, like he took all the attention away that made Jackson Smith-Njigba effective last season. Let's take a look at that. So if you go back to last year, folks, I mean, we did this a little bit last year too. You didn't have to wait till this year to see how it would go potentially for Jackson Smith-Njigba without DK Metcalf, because guess what? DK Metcalf did not play in week 8 or week 9 for the Seahawks. And week 8, that was against Buffalo. Pretty tough for, like, that was just a big L in general. Nobody did well. But Jackson Smith-Njigba did have 6 catches in 7 targets for 69 yards. Not awful. Not great, but not awful. What did he do in the other game when DK Metcalf sat out against a divisional opponent, the Rams at home? Oh, he probably struggled, right? Without DK Metcalf in a game like that. He had 7 catches for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. And by the way, he had multiple plays called back due to penalty that would have had him over 230 yards receiving. I think it was more than that even. So it wasn't that hard to predict that actually, no, Jackson Smith-Njigba is singularly good and he doesn't need a daddy. He's his own daddy. He is now everyone else's daddy, the way he's been playing so far this season, which, he's a 4-6 receiver. They don't have a deep threat. Let's look at that for a second. The Seahawks, as a team, lead the NFL in explosive passing. Let me repeat that. The Seattle Seahawks lead the NFL in explosive passing. And it's honestly not even that close. Not only that, Jackson Smith-Njigba is the only player in the NFL to have at least one 35-yard or greater play in every single game this season. Oh, and Cooper Kupp, the other 4-6 receiver, he's got, well, he might actually have 6, but I know he at least has 5 explosive catches on the year. That is 16 yards or greater. And guess what? The guy that you were saying, like, took the top off and was a big threat down the field. I got news for you. He's got fewer explosive catches than Cooper Kupp. And that was even after 3 games. So I look here. I'm just going to double check. Cooper Kupp, yes, he has 5. DK Metcalf has 3. And as I go through, I'm kind of curious. Let's see if I can find this now. Oh, look at that. AJ Barner, the tight end that doesn't exist, a good tight end on the team. He also has as many explosive receptions as DK Metcalf. So Jackson Smith-Njigba has 10. He has 3 more than the next player now. Granted, there's all the weekend's games to play and guys will do better. But they've got some, like, they're going to have at least 3 explosive catches just to match what JSN is doing. So maybe, like, I always hesitate to throw this out, but that's kind of like, maybe you don't know ball a little bit. Like, to look at these guys and assume that they just cannot be productive when Sam Darnold was also the number one quarterback in the NFL last year in explosive passes. I don't think that's great. And I will continue to do this, even though it probably takes away a little bit from the fun of the show. I had questions about whether this was a dynamic enough receiving group. I did. I think it's fair to come in and say they're going to be a bottom 5 offense, that they're going to be 7-10 or 5-12. That's a different level of, I think, arrogance, that you see things in a way that is superior to Mike Macdonald and John Schneider. And I think that's not looking so hot right now. Let's keep going. I'm going to keep hammering on Mike Renner because, I mean, he kind of just put his chin out there. Here's another one. This was offseason grades.
I'm right there with you on the Seahawks team. They had, for my money, the worst free agency period in the NFL, whether it was swapping Geno for Sam Darnold, whether it was swapping DK for a 32-year-old Cooper Kupp. And now I just worry about DK was the field stretcher. Like, JSN was great in that offense last year, but it's because people had to pay attention to to DK and the speed he brings to the table on the outside. They don't have that field stretcher anymore. MVS, it does have some speed, but I don't think anyone's scared of him at this point in his career. So you have 2 4-6 type of wide receivers, 2 guys who work the underneath and intermediate range, no one who can really stretch the top off the defense. So I'm worried about that. And then in the draft, they go low value positions, guard, safety, tight end with their first 3 picks. Not to say that they aren't good players. It's just you had 3 top picks. You could have really hit the home run on higher value positions for that team.
I hate that take so much. To look at that draft class, one of the most athletic draft classes in the history of the NFL, and be like, well, but it's low value positions. And yet you also have these people hammering them in the past for not taking a guard early, for not building the interior offensive line. And then for them to be so arrogant about a defensive pick that Mike Macdonald makes, like that he wants. You're telling me that you think so little of Mike Macdonald's ability to evaluate defensive talent that Nicky Manwari is a bad pick where they took him? You sure about that? Like, you want to get out over your skis that far? I don't know. And then the other part of this, Elijah Arroyo, like, look, I will be honest. You can go back to the draft show when we were going through that. I wanted them to take another interior offensive lineman. I wanted them to take Tate Ratledge, which, by the way, I think would have been the better pick. I love Elijah Arroyo, but I wanted them to double down and take more interior because they didn't go out in free agency and add someone there. But I mean, Elijah Arroyo is undeniably talented and a good player. And you also have said, hey, they don't have field stretchers. They don't have dynamic tight ends. And then you hammer them for taking a really athletic tight end? Come on, man. Like, be better. I'm just going to keep hammering him because he's got so many of these. I'm going through my clips. There's so many. So this is Mike Renner with biggest questions for every NFC West team after camp. This is so later on.
Have this elite situation before I believe it as well. And especially the biggest thing that I keep going back to is he was great down the football field last season. They do not have fast receivers in Seattle. Those are 4-6 wide receivers.
God, I can't listen to it anymore. It just makes my skin crawl. Like, okay, dude. Like, you went over and over and over again on this take. How's that holding up for you, man? How are you taking that? Like, are you? Let's take a quick look at Mike Renner's Twitter. Has he walked back any of this? I haven't looked. I have not looked. My guess is it's not going to be pretty. He's also the lead draft analyst for CBS Sports. My goodness. Okay. Interesting. I see no tweets since the game this weekend. Interesting. You know who else has like been oddly silent about the Thursday night game? Steven Ruiz. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Let's take a look. Where do we want to go? Oh. Big friend of the show, Mina Kimes. You know, I'm not going to have as much from her on here, but this is her take with Nick Wright. Nick Wright on where the different teams should be in the power rankings. And this is to pick the 21st ranked team. So let's listen to this conversation.
Cardinals versus Seahawks.
He has a choice of whether he wants to decide the Cardinals or the Seahawks are the 21st best team in the NFL.
They're very close, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
By the way, are they very close? Are the Cardinals and the Seahawks very close? It didn't look, the score might have been very close, but they did not look very close if you watch that game. Let's keep going.
I will begrudgingly go Seahawks. And when I say begrudgingly, I just thought the moving on from Geno to bring in Darnold was so insane to me. But the Seahawks by a hair would be my answer there. I know we have to go faster or else it's not an hour.
Seahawks defense is good. It's okay if it's a little bit over, but the Seahawks defense is going to be really good. I think if you look at those two teams, offense, defense, the Seahawks defense is the best unit. So I think that's a reasonable case.
Yeah.
Give Mina credit there. I think that's fair. But let's hear a little bit more from Nick Wright on a different show. This is First Things First.
That's right. Is there a chance Seattle regrets their offseason?
Yeah,
moves?
I don't get it. I don't understand moving on from Geno for a worse quarterback that's just as expensive. I don't get it.
Sam Darnold can ball.
So you like their offseason.
I like Cooper because I like Cooper Kupp and I like Sam Darnold.
You got in Jigba.
Why don't you like Cooper
Kupp's just injured a lot.
I just think I think his time has passed.
Doesn't get the offseason, doesn't get the Sam Darnold piece, and he's not alone. Let's listen to the guys who I have tons of respect for and listen to all the time, but let's listen to Derek Klassen on the Athletic Football Show in an episode where they were discussing, are these teams better than they were after their free agent moves? And here is Derek Klassen's response.
Do you think the Seattle Seahawks are better off right now than they were at the start of free agency?
No, absolutely not. Listen, I know that this is supposed to be for the next 3 years, and I understand that they can actually get out of the Sam Darnold contract after year one. So, like, in theory, their flexibility over the next 3 years is actually kind of good. And then obviously opening up the DK thing kind of allows them to not have as much money tied into one player who was probably too much money for that kind of player, in my opinion. However, I still think that like Geno over the next 3 years would have been more valuable than like all of the other stuff that they've put together here. And I know that obviously them in the building, they disagreed with that. So they wanted to pivot off of that. But it's very hard for me to move off of that point.
There's more there. I have a little bit of a time crunch, so I'm not going to be able to play all of it. I apologize, but I've got to get my son out to an appointment. But this is a group that when they looked at this free agent move, part of the thing that always got me, even back then, was this assumption that the Seahawks intentionally made these moves and that they looked at Geno Smith as worse. They wanted Geno Smith and they wanted DK Metcalf. So I'm actually not here, or they wanted both of those guys. I'm not here actually celebrating that John Schneider is like a genius who like orchestrated all of this. I do believe that the moves he's made have been really good. And I'll say this, the amount of luck that factors into this is off the charts. If JJ McCarthy does not get injured last year, if Sam Darnold does not have his collapse or perceived collapse in the last 2 games of last season. If Geno Smith does not wish to leave the team, if Pete Carroll doesn't get hired by the Raiders so that Geno Smith has a place he can go, if Sam Darnold does not want to come to the Seattle for whatever reason, if another team were to bid higher, there's a million things that had to fall in place. And for Sam Darnold to happen to be a quarterback who is available for an affordable price in free agency, who also excels at under center play action and deep throws, which is what Clint Kubiak needs. That is all luck. That is not clever maneuvering. It is just luck. And thank God. And like, you need luck. You need luck. You needed luck to sign Michael Bennett and get Cliff Averill, both of those guys, for below market deals, because for whatever reason, post lockout that year, there was kind of this collusion that pushed down the prices for pass rushers. And so there's been luck in the past. There will be luck in the future. You hope it's good luck. And in this case, I think it's been good luck. I think there's a couple others. Let me see what I got here. Hold on. Who is this? Oh, this is Pete Prisco. Pete Prisco and Logan Ryan.
I worry about Sam Darnold by what we saw about him in the last 2 games last year, the playoffs. I mean, it wasn't very good. Let's be real. And I wonder if the moment wasn't too big for him. You know, sometimes, like I always say, Chris, you are what you are. And Sam Darnold was a backup quarterback, essentially going around the league. And they rescued him in Minnesota, and he had a good start to the season. But when it came time to win and go to, do something in the postseason, he didn't do it. And that's a worry. So I think at the best, it's a lateral move for the for the Seattle Seahawks. I worry about the offensive line.
So that's Pete Prisco. And another one saying at best, it's a lateral move. And this take on that he collapsed in the playoffs. And, I posted my question to Cooper Kupp on that. And if you didn't hear that response, you should check it out, because I think Cooper's response was pretty telling, especially considering he was on the opposing sideline for that game in the same stadium that Sam Darnold just won and played a great game in. And you will not have answered the questions about Sam Darnold until at least 2 things happen. One, he beats good teams during the regular season. Tampa Bay would be a good start. Like, that's a legitimately good team. And then 2, he has to win in the playoffs. Guess what? Geno hasn't done that either. So the fact that Sam gets none of the benefit of the doubt and Geno gets a lot of it is a little weird to me in that regard. And let's be honest as well, Geno didn't always have his best games against the best teams. The 49ers in particular were a tough team for Geno to face. So I'm not here sitting like crowning Sam Darnold as the next elite quarterback. But through 4 games, he's been there's no question. There's no way to evaluate quarterback play that doesn't say Sam Darnold's has not been one of the 5 best quarterbacks in football through 4 weeks. He just has been. So now you have more to prove. But the evidence that's mounting is that he might be able to do that. And he also might have the team around him and the coordinator with him to make that possible. So let's switch gears for a second. Let's now play a little bit from how people are talking about this team after the win against the Cardinals. This was the same Sheil Kapadia who had on Jackson Bevins, who, by the way, had his own takes. I'm not going to put Jackson on blast. I think generally I look for folks that have probably a little bit larger platform that they're spouting off from. But Jackson's the guest on this show, so you might hear a little bit from him. But here's Sheil Kapadia after the Seahawks win against the Cardinals on the Ringer podcast.
Conversation. I think you and I were probably in the same spot with this going into the season. I was very skeptical of this Sam Darnold, Clint Kubiak relationship. I thought it's not going to look the same as it did in Minnesota. Now we have 4 weeks here, Jackson. And so I'm taking the L.
Oh, wait, just hold on. I'm taking the L. We gotta listen to that just one more time. That was just so good. Okay, let's go back and listen to it one more time.
It's not going to look the same as it did in Minnesota. Now we have 4 weeks here, Jackson. And so I'm taking the L.
I respect that so much. I have so much respect for that because I played yesterday on the show with Jeff. Derek Klassen. I was wrong. Seattle's offense is good. Robert Mays on the same Athletic Football show said, I got to take the L on Seahawks offseason. And now you've got Sheil Kapadia. That's why I respect these guys, because they do keep themselves open to new information and are not so arrogant that they wouldn't take in that information and reevaluate their position. That's what I think smart people do. And so here's a little bit more from that clip.
On my preseason take. Now, I want to hear where you are in a second, but I'm taking the L because I really thought there was a low floor for this offense. Like, I thought there was a chance it was going to be a disaster, that Darnold was going to look more like the guy we saw earlier in his career. And that just hasn't been the case through 4 weeks. I'm not saying it's amazing. He's elite. This offense is incredible. But what I do like a lot is that they are producing explosive plays at a very high rate. And you mentioned it. That's impressive when you really only have one wide receiver you can lean on. Right now, 21% of their pass plays have resulted in an explosive completion. That's the highest rate in the entire NFL. And I thought Darnold looked really good today. Like you said, 18 for 26, 242 yards. He made some big time throws in this game. And so I'm already 1 month in, backing off of my preseason take that watch out, this offense could be really bad. Are you willing to go that far? Let's get the state of where Jackson is with Sam Darnold 4 weeks into the season.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident in saying this offense is not going to be really bad. I think that, I don't think a top 5 offense is within this team's range of outcomes, but it doesn't need to be because they're allowing 17 points per game.
I don't know, man. I hadn't heard that. That's an equivocation, man. Like, that is not taking an L. Sorry, but I honestly haven't heard a lot of his takes. I know a lot of you have, but I haven't. Come on. Don't like, oh, the offense is good enough because the defense is really good. No, the offense is really good. And the offense right now is if you can't look at this current state of scoring and efficiency and say top 5 is not even in the range of outcomes, I don't know, man. I see it very, very differently because this team is, as we talked about before, already 5th in the NFL in scoring and what did I say? 7th in yards per play. And they were top 10 in DVOA. They're doing all that without a run game. The run game has been horrible. It's been inefficient. It hasn't been working. And there's no chance that the run game will improve over the course of a season. I've seen that happen tons of times as NFL teams, offensive lines gel together. They start to get acclimated. All the same rules apply to this offense that did before the season, which is, guess what? It takes some time for a new quarterback, new offensive line, new coaches, new coordinator, all to gel and figure it out. It took over 8 games for Mike Macdonald to do that with his Baltimore defense. It took over 8 games for Mike Macdonald to do that with his Seahawks defense. Why doesn't Clint Kubiak, John Benton, Rick Dennison, Justin Out, and those guys get the same benefit of the doubt that maybe things will get better over the course of this season as they're able to teach these guys exactly what they need to do and adjust? So you add a even league average rushing offense, which I think they're going to be, I think they can potentially be better than that. If you add that to this passing offense, that absolutely in the range of outcomes can be top 5 because also, and I'll give Jackson credit on this, one of the things having a really good defense does, it's not just about, oh, you don't have to score that much. It's that you get advantageous field position. You are getting more turnovers this season, which you didn't get, which means you're going to get some plus field position that you can get shorter drives to score points. that can help you be a better offense. So this is complementary football. This is what Mike McDonald talks about. So I don't love that. I don't love that. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Let's listen to First Take with Stephen A. Smith.
They legit contenders in the NFC West? Absolutely. And no.
All right. Are they legit contenders in the NFC West? And Ryan Clark just said, absolutely.
We know who the normal suspects are, right? The Detroits, the Packers, the Eagles, the Bucks. You talk about those teams, the Rams, the Seattle Seahawks are right in that bunch. Aside from us watching Nick Bosa make a huge play to stop a drive that was going to win the game in week 1, this team should be undefeated. Then you go to Pittsburgh, you get a huge win on the road. You find a way to come back home and blow out the New Orleans Saints, which we expect. But even in the struggle last night, you get a win on the road on a Thursday night game. There's a touchdown that's taken off of the board on a holding on JSN for Charbonnet. This game's not even supposed to be close.
Yes.
Mike McDonald, absolute coaching star. This defense, even shorthanded, without rookie Nick Emenwari, last week without Julian Love, without Devin Weatherspoon, still making plays, still finding twos, taking people off the street that can come in and perform. With the run game, JSN as a number 1, and Sam Darnold, who has absolutely revitalized his career, this team is an absolute contender. Now, but the question is going to be, how do they continue to grow? Because if they don't find a true number 2, I think that's where the trouble comes in.
All right. I love that from Ryan Clark. Absolute stunning, good take. And by the way, I've had some Ryan Clark stuff that I initially queued up on the bad stuff on the earlier. It wasn't bad enough that I felt like it was a good contrast, but he had the same questions other people did. And I love that everything he said to me was just spot on. And there are people are going to, oh, they beat the Saints. What does that matter? They blew out the Saints. They're not very good. Cardinals and the 49ers couldn't blow out the Saints, and those were very close games. And they're like, oh, yeah, but you know, there's injuries. Seahawks have been missing all sorts of guys. They were missing Devin Witherspoon and Nick Emenwari and Julian Love. And like, come on, guys. Like, it's football. It's the NFL. It happens. And so that was great stuff from Ryan Clark. Let's hear from Rich Eisen, who, by the way, has been pretty positive on them all along. But here's him after the Cardinals game.
Sam's slinging it. And it looks like this is a perfect spot for him. He's up there in Seattle. And Minnesota, we were all focused on what he was doing because nobody expected it. And they were having a terrific season. And was it really all Fugazi? Now it's just like, okay, Sam's just kind of toiling in Northwest anonymity, getting better every week. 5 career game-winning drives in his first 6 seasons in the NFL prior to 2024. Now he's had 7 since he started with the Vikings last year. Only Mahomes has had as many in that span.
I thought Sam doesn't do well under pressure. I thought that he doesn't rise in big moments. I guess the fact that we talked on this show so much about the fact that he was the highest rated passer in close and late situations last year, maybe that was worth paying attention to. Let's listen to Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon on Pardon the Interruption about the Seahawks.
Seattle now. I think Seattle's a pretty good team. I think they have a good defense because when the Baltimore Ravens had a good defense, not this year, Mike McDonald was their defensive coordinator, and they have added Sam Darnold this year. And Sam Darnold was really good in Minnesota, and he's good in Seattle. Last night, Mike, Sam Darnold, 18 of 26 for 242 yards and a touchdown. That's almost 10 yards per attempt. Darnold had a rating of 111. Kyler Murray had a rating of 73.2. Darnold's now 17-4 in Minnesota and Seattle. And this Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones are exhibits A and B about how terrible it is to be a quarterback at either the Jets or the Giants. It doesn't matter who the coach is. It is a disaster. The Jets and the Giants kill quarterbacks.
These teams are okay. They're all right. They may even be wild card teams.
Oh, Michael, I'm going to let you go there because, man, that's going to be a bad take, and I don't need to hear it. So those are the ones I've got for you right now. I mean, there's a bunch of others I could play, but man, rough stuff. Let's take a look at some of these super chats before I get out of here. It tolls for these says, yes, let them have it. And don't let Fairweather, friend of show, Mina, off the hook either. She's great, but too much Seahawks shade. Yeah, I did let Mina off the hook a little bit. And partially, I ran out of time. To be totally honest, I ran out of time. There's too many bad takes out there, but you guys know what you've heard from her. Corey Coleman, member for 14 months, says, imagine if we picked Will Fries and paid DK. The future feels so much better because we didn't settle. Yeah, we'll talk about that. We've got a new member here in hers, Booby or Bubby, whichever one you prefer. Love it. Welcome to the crew. And listen, folks, this is not victory. This is not the end. The Seahawks are 3-1. They beat the last two teams they beat. I'm not sure how good they are. I know how bad the Saints are. And it gets more interesting the rest of the way. I'll probably on a show tomorrow talk to you guys about they don't really play a lot of great offenses the rest of the way. They play a lot of really good defenses the rest of the way. So this offense for the Seahawks is going to be tested. And by the time you get to the end of the year, you'll know whether or not this was a middling offense or a good offense. But the thing that I said all along, where I think people got it very, very wrong, was not whether Sam Darnold was better than Geno or DK Metcalf was better than Cooper Kupp or any of that stuff. It was, is this offense better than last year's Seahawks offense? An offense that was really not very good, very misaligned with the head coach, and they still won 10 games. I thought there was a lot of reasons to think this offense could be better than last year's offense, which was like 18th in DVOA. They absolutely look like they can be a top half of the league offense. And it's realistic that they could be a top 10 offense, which for me is higher than I would have expected. I thought top 12 was it, but I also thought this team had to be a top 10 rushing offense to be a good offense in general. That has proven to not be the case so far. They have not been a good run offense, and they've been an excellent passing offense, even while not passing the ball very much. They're down toward the bottom of the league in passing, partially because they've been an excellent early down offense. They're one of the top 5 early down offenses in football, especially first down. So I think there's a lot of room for growth. I don't think things are hitting on all cylinders. I also think Sam Darnold is playing nearly flawless football. I don't expect that to always be the case. No quarterback plays flawless football all the time, but he is constantly making really good choices. And when he's making questionable choices where he's going deep instead of taking the sure thing, either a run, a scramble, or an underneath pass, he's throwing dots and he's completing those. So that's pretty damn good. Now, if you want to go see this team play against the Tampa Bay Bucks next Sunday, now's a great time to get a great deal. And here's where you can get one. We're headed towards fall, so I'd love to find some indoor events to attend with my family, which is why I want to give the sponsor of today's video, SeatGeek, a huge shout out. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and a bunch more. The NFL is officially back, MLB playoffs are around the corner, and the NBA not too far behind. SeatGeek has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale from 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. Look for the green dots. Those are the best. Red, not quite as good. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And you know what? It doesn't really matter if you are a Dua Lipa fan or a Benson Boone guy, or who knows, maybe you're a Tate McRae person, but there are great concerts coming your way. Find them on SeatGeek. And you know, I have a code for you guys. You can use code HawkBlogger10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code HawkBlogger10. Make sure you click on the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thanks, SeatGeek. Awesome deal. And if you haven't also downloaded the Sleeper app, now is a great time to do that. Great place to get all your fantasy sports information, make some picks, do real-time chat with friends and folks just about anything going on, whether it's Mariners, Seahawks, or whatever your team is. Use promo code Hawks. You get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this Seahawks Saturday edition of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Let's enjoy this weekend where all we have to do is watch football and enjoy ourselves. I'll talk to you again soon. Take care.